What the hell happened to the Birch Forest overhaul? Where is the better Birch Forest? And both of these comments are referring, of course, to the concept art we saw at the reveal of the Wild update. This 1.19 reveal showed what the Birch Forests were due to look like, but we only ever saw this concept art, and in the 9 months since, they haven't even referenced updating the Birch Forest, which makes a lot of people worried when it's mentioned that they're almost done adding features to this update, that they're not going to add this whatsoever. I think that that is a possibility. However, it's worth mentioning that when the Mangrove Forest was added to the game, it was mentioned by Jappa that it would take a few weeks to finish the mangrove textures to make them as good as they wanted to be, and the art was very good for that, which is why you might be pleased to hear that Jappa, as of this week, announced that he is the art director for Minecraft now, which means he'll be making less art but focusing on the overarching strategy. Maybe because they're doing some hiring in the art department, there's a sign that there's a clear art shortage compared to the technical side, and maybe the Birch Forest is finished because it mostly is graphical overhauls. I mean, if you look at this thing in detail, even the most concept of concept art just kind of shows a few extra things on the trees, some moss here, some extra flowers on the ground. Those are all things which are added via the art department, and so maybe we're just waiting on the final textures before they'll show it to us as a nice little package at the end. That's not a guarantee, of course, it's just something to think about, that maybe the Birch Forest is being updated. I guess we won't know for sure until the coming weeks or months reveal that they are finished adding features and it's not in there, or that they finish adding features and it makes it in as one of the last few things. Who knows for sure? All I know is that when looking into the Birch Forest to make sure they hadn't mentioned it anywhere else since then, I saw that it has different spawn rates from Java over here to Bedrock over here. As you can see, glow squids can spawn in Birch Forests on Java, but not on Bedrock, and also chicken jockeys are about 3 times more likely to spawn on the Bedrock version. Also, you'll get more spawns for sheep, pigs, chickens, and cow. They'll spawn in groups of 4, whereas pigs, for example, only spawn in groups of 1 to 3 on Bedrock. You know, it's very strange, but the Birch Forest could do with some parity, as well as ultimately the important updates to make it a little bit prettier and more worthwhile going into, which includes, as you can see from this concept art, I'll show you one last time, the fallen trees on the ground, which are no doubt going to make their way to Java, would be an important little feature. Speaking of important little features, what happened to the Fireflies? Sadface asks Zicher. Oh, Zicher, you are French. Baguette, oui, oui. So the answer to this question is the Fireflies, they were going to be food for the frog, then they realized they couldn't be food for the frog because some species of Firefly in real life are poisonous to frogs, and since Minecraft is a perfectly realistic game, then they can't have that. More seriously, I think Minecraft tries to add a few lessons into the game and tries not to add false ones, so they had to rework what was going on with the Fireflies. It was just a 2-pixel mob, but if it's a 2-pixel mob that adds nothing besides ambiance, is it still worth adding to the game? Maybe not, and so maybe that's also on their list of features that they're just trying to work out a purpose for. Will it be added before the end of the update? I think it's more likely than the Birch Forest, because they clearly have done some amount of development work, but is it better to add a bad feature, or is it better just to leave it out and wait until they have a better idea? Who knows for sure? All I know is that this next question comes in from Blurry, or Blurry to be precise. Is it just me, or do the new controls for mobile look ridiculous? And it's funny because this is something a lot of people have said, that yeah, look at the way these controls are oriented on the screen. This is the new post 1.19 control system that you can choose to use. It's not mandatory. However, we actually did get an interesting response just yesterday from Ledskeet, who I'll admit I didn't know until yesterday. He is the principal design director for Minecraft. There's a lot of director titles on the Minecraft team, huh? Anyway, so we are working on allowing you to customize your controls. We will not be removing classic controls. You can still use your existing controls, and they're working on making them more customizable. I hope that this means, my interpretation is it means you will be able to not only change the button size, but add more buttons, add fewer, give more customization on where they go, and that is a big improvement, because as a controller and keyboard mouse player, moving to Pocket Edition with these new controls is better, but they're pretty big and they're pretty cumbersome in the way they're laid out right now. I think adding more customization could allow people like me to enjoy it, but also touchscreen players who very much don't like how they are right now to enjoy it just a little bit better. Speaking of enjoying things better, Evan J. Freewind says, does the boat chest and cart chest now work like little shulker boxes? What? And I had a surprising number of comments asking the same thing, because obviously now when you break both of those items, you get them back in their hole. Rather than getting a boat and a chest, you get a boat chest. Rather than getting a minecart and a chest, you get a minecart chest, which means these items are kind of fused together, and I worry that I did a bad job in communicating it, because obviously when you break a regular chest in Minecraft, it goes everywhere. It spews on the floor. When you break a boat chest in Minecart, even though the boat chest will come back as one item, all of the items inside of it will break. The shulker box is still really essential, because we do not have bundles in this update, just a reminder. So the boat chest is a way to move things around, but the shulker box is the only way to turn turn one inventory space into multiple. Although, pro tip, if you're using boat chests, don't just use the boat on the chest. Throw a donkey in there too. Throw a chest on the donkey, and now you've got two chests in a boat. Yeah, Mojang weren't expecting that, were you? Pro tip, only works on Bedrock, because you still can't lead boats on Java. But, you know, parity is a weird thing that we could talk about all day, which is why instead we're going to talk about the next question. Liquid Dragon 79's, okay, what if the catalyst is a placeholder drop for the Warden? What if he drops a key or some sort to open the new portal? And I think that this is a fun idea, but I also think it's unlikely. The reason I think that is because the Warden was never really meant to have any drop whatsoever. They said the catalyst was just meant to be like a way to make it renewable, and so I think that they're going to leave it just there as a way to mean that really, really technical players can farm the Warden if they want to and get some minor thing out of it. However, I think they'd be better off turning it into something more of a positive than just here is a very weak drop for killing the strongest mob in the game. I think if it dropped onto the ground, then at least you're getting some lore explanation for like, whoa, this city is filled with those catalysts. Are those all the souls of dead Wardens? You know, something like that. I feel as though you could have all sorts of fun lore explanations for the current situation. I would love if there was some key situation going on down here, but I imagine that in the same way you get the Eyes of Ender, not inside of the End Dimension or inside of the Stronghold, but instead you get them elsewhere, I imagine that whatever it is to do with that portal, if it's a big enough deal, will come from elsewhere, or at the very least, it's going to come from the chests and not from the big boss mob thing, or maybe I'm wrong about that entirely. We'll have to see when it comes out, won't we? Speaking of things we'll have to see about, Guy Stewart, anyone know how I get super flat survival on PlayStation 4? Every time I select survival, it auto switches infinite, and if I change that to super flat, then it auto switches to creative. And yeah, that is sadly the experience right now if you play Minecraft Bedrock. You can't start a flat world in survival. For whatever reason, they just decided there is no reason anyone would want to do that, so it switches you forcibly back to it. So what you have to do if you're playing 1.18 is you have to start it in creative, immediately unload, and then switch to survival. If you're using the new UI, you used to be able to have flat world and survival turned on at the same time. Whether that works precisely right now is something we've yet to see, but yeah, you want to play around with the new user interface, and that's how you're going to be able to do that. Whether it's a bug or intentional, whether they'll fix it by 1.19's release or not, is something we genuinely don't know about, which is a concern you might be able to say, but it's a long list of concerns that I have regarding super flat being playable on the Bedrock version, and there's only two settings, so you figure they could put some effort in there. Honestly, I could talk for literal hours about these settings that they should maybe be adding to Minecraft to make it more user-friendly to play flat, but that's not as important as Gale the Stardust Angel's question, which is, this is all fair. I like the idea of one big update rather than two smaller ones though, and this is referring of course to the fact that the Wild update is going to be a smaller update that releases sooner rather than being a big update that releases at the end of the year, because yeah, they have been working on a year-long cycle. I imagine that after the Wild update releases, they'll have two systems they can go for. One is they can move back to the yearly cycle because it works better for them, and that way they can keep releasing it in the summer, which I imagine is the peak time for Minecraft. If it wasn't, then they wouldn't have released so many updates in that perfect summertime. The only reason that things got messed up is because they had to split the Caves and Cliffs update into two and release another one 6 months after. So maybe this is just the 6 months to go from 1.18 to 1.19, then they'll get back to an every summer release schedule, and we'll have one big update instead of two. I do think personally that I like the idea of one big update if it's themed well and they really go hard on something, like if 1.20 is a new dimension. Of course that's worth waiting a year for. However, I think that not necessarily, I think the one place where two small updates works is if they tackle two medium-sized themes in very effective separate ways. So the Wild update, for instance, could target like the swamps, the Mangrove Swamps, and the Deep Dark. That's a fun couple of biomes. And then the next update could be something entirely different, like we're gonna make an entire update to the jungles, and I don't know, man, we're gonna make a new ocean structure. Like if you can tie those two things together with a separate theme to the Wild update. Honestly, the Wild update is such a general theme that actually does work for basically any update because it's such a broad scope, which is why, by the way, this question from Sebastian Silverfox is, so they promised the Wild update, we got a mild update. And you know what? I like the phrase mild update so much that I had Harrison make this graphic, 1.19, the mild update, which I do think is a pretty obvious joke looking back. But they say I wouldn't mind, but they gave a grandiose name with average promises, but failed to even give us more than a single biome update. And a lot of people do forget that obviously this is the single biome of the Mangrove Swamp, but they have also worked on the Deep Dark, and the Ancient City really is enough to flesh out that entire biome. But I will have to say that I think there's a little bit of truth to that. The Wild update does have these grandiose ideas, and when they revealed not too many features for it, I thought, oh, this is good. They're not going to make the Caves and Cliffs update mistake where they reveal so much and then they panic themselves from releasing it and they have to split it in two, and you know, we had all sorts of issues that resulted from that. But I thought, okay, they're not going to reveal much, and that way they can surprise us later. And there are lots of surprises that weren't in the trailer, just to be clear, like the recovery compass, brand new item, pretty cool. But as far as like the, you know, as far as what we saw there, they've actually failed to even fully deliver that. I mean, obviously I mentioned the Birch Forest earlier, but I think we have to go back to that because the Birch Forest already was such a mild reveal. All it really was there's going to be a little bit more vegetation here, maybe a few more flowers, and so like, not to, you know, like the whole thing about like you want to under promise and over deliver. You want to make sure that people are pleasantly surprised rather than, oh, this is less than I was expecting. And I thought that was their whole goal here, and I was like, this is smart moves by Mojang. Now every feature, and you know, like the surprises we did get were nice, but the fact that, yeah, the Birch Forest isn't there. Also, if you look at this concept art image, this is 3 separate forests all meeting right here. There was at least a hint that maybe they'd be looking at the regular forest too, adding a tiny bit more life to that, but no, we just have the Mangrove Swamp, and the Mangrove Swamp isn't even that alive. It's a cool biome. I'm glad they gave it its own tree. I think that's important, but they didn't give it any structures like they did for the Deep Dark biome, and it also, the villagers don't work entirely with it because it doesn't count as a swamp. I like the new mud block, but if it's going to be just one biome in an update, it needs to be really well polished. You know, when you're adding 10 biomes at a time, I can understand when the only appeal for this one is there is new blocks, you can build with them. When they made the update that changed the world, the savannah was just, here is a warm place that doesn't rain and there's a new tree. The mesa was, here's a ton of new blocks. That, you know, like every biome had just a single purpose like that, and it was fine because there were so many of them. If the goal is to add less content but more polished, you need to make it more polished. You know, you can't just hear less content, more polished and do the first half. But yeah, I do still think a lot of people are exaggerating the undersizedness of 1.19. I think for a half-year update, this is about what you should expect. I just think that, yeah, is about what you could expect, the best you can hope for. I mean, maybe not. Anyway, the final question today is in response to the /place feature command. Stalker Chicken says, so many YouTubers are going to give fake seeds. What's up, guys? Fuzzy the Panda here with an epic seed showcase for you all. This is a seed that has 12 villages combined together at spawn with 6 ruin portals. It's totally legit, and all you have to do to get it is type in, I'm insulting your intelligence in exchange for views and money right now because I think you're that much of an idiot. You type that all in as one word and you're gonna get this seed right here. And if this doesn't work for you, just remember to dislike the video because those are totally visible on YouTube and it's gonna cause me loads of issues. And yeah, obviously, this is gonna be a whole problem of people just creating things like this from nowhere. But you know, let's be honest, on YouTube, when it comes to dishonest lies in exchange for, you know, trying to get people to click on your videos, it's not exactly the only thing you can do. It's just now more accessible, and now people like me who like to goof around with structures have more things to play with. So yeah, there's definitely downsides and upsides, although again, I want to play around with this so much. Look what it did when I combined just 12 villages together. Imagine what we could do if we really played around with this, and that's something I totally do want to do. I think I've ended up trapped in a block here. Yeah, a little bit of a bug in this snapshot, I guess. But yeah, let's get back to the video. Oh, look at that house. This is all very strange. Oh, wow. It was a hay bale I was trapped on. That is very odd. Yeah, I do have to say, I have so many fun ideas for what I want to do with that, like placing 1,000 villages down, or, you know, like, I feel as though the new command is one of those pleasant surprises. It's a shame it's only on the Java edition. I think this kind of reinforces the whole, like, well, every good feature that Bedrock has is going to be ported to Java, and then Java's going to keep adding cool features that Bedrock's not going to get. I mean, the fact that we mentioned the flat thing being so tricky, and that's already a much worse version of the flat world type, which is already just one of the many world types that Java has. Look how many options they have for starting a new world. We have 2 on Bedrock, and one of them doesn't even let you do it in survival right now. I have lots and lots of issues of how Minecraft development goes. Of course, I would have different priorities, but I hope that all of the promotions and improvements and team insider things they're doing are going to lead to a better Minecraft for us all. I don't know if I'm correct, but I want to be, and if you want to be correct, then make sure you subscribe to the Yesis channel out there. I'm gonna go out to a comedy club for the first time in my life now. That seems like kind of scary. Am I gonna get heckled? Do I want to be heckled? Is it gonna be funny, or is it just gonna be a lot of people telling jokes that don't miss? Is it gonna be bad? I don't know for sure, but I'm gonna try and enjoy it, and I hope that you enjoy your evening, because I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.